What's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review for the Super Mario Brothers movie. So yes, we have yet again another video game to movie adaptation. After the success of the first two Sonic movies, they decided to go ahead and do it with the Super Mario Brothers. And, especially since that one that came out in the 90s, which was an absolute travesty, many are wondering, could this one be better considering that it does have animation? Well, we're going to find out right now. When they first announced that they were doing the Super Mario Brothers movie, I was kind of skeptical about it considering the original one back in the 90s that had the original live actors in the movie. I was like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're doing animation. Let's see how this goes. Then a lot of people were worried because they cast Chris Pratt to do the voice of Mario. Then they dropped that first teaser and heard him talk, and people was like, I'm not sure how his voice is like sounding like this, because when we hear Mario in the game, we always think of him talking with this very high-pitched sounding voice with the Italian accent, being a plumber from Brooklyn. But Chris Pratt is, he's using his regular voice. And, a lot of people was kind of iffy about that. Then they dropped a couple more trailers and people warmed up more to it, especially when they started showing stuff relatable to the game or seeing things in there from our childhood. Those of us who were born in the 80s, even raised in the 90s, even maybe the late 70s, knows how big of an impact the Super Mario Brothers video games were to us as children growing up, and how much of a huge part of our childhood that particular franchise was and still is to this day, because it's still making properties related to Super Mario Brothers even still to this day. So basically what this movie is about, to give a quick synopsis, because it's really kind of simple to really explain. You have Mario and Luigi, who of course we all know are brothers. They're plumbers in Brooklyn. They have their own business, and they're basically trying to, make their way through society as plumbers in Brooklyn, doing their own thing. And they're always seen as a joke. They're always seen as failures because they can't seem to really get everything right, even when things seem to be going right for them. Then all of a sudden something crazy happens and they end up getting pulled into this mystical world known as, the Mushroom Kingdom, where of course, Princess Peach and all these other characters like Toad live at, and they have to help come and take out this threat. Of course, the threat being Bowser, because he has managed to go and retrieve the star. Now, for those of y'all who are familiar with the video games, y'all know what happens when you get that star, and what happens when you have it in your possession, and what that can do to you. It basically gives you unlimited ultimate power. And Mario and Luigi have to figure out how in order to get that star away from Bowser before he gets to the Mushroom Kingdom. Of course, unfortunately, when they get there, Mario and Luigi get split up, and Luigi goes one way and Mario goes another way, and Luigi's pretty much in a position where he's like really in a bad spot. And what I did like about the movie is that you could look at certain things there and see where they pull things from the game to put into the movie to help flow an overall story. Now, the question of whether the flow of the story was good or not is left up to the viewer of the film. So basically that's a synopsis of the movie. So I'm gonna go in and tell you what I liked and what I didn't like. It was actually only a couple things that I didn't like, but I'll get to that in a minute. What I did like, the animation. The animation in this movie was phenomenal. It looked like I was playing an actual Super Mario Brothers video game. It felt like I was, when I was watching in the theater, I was in my seat. I felt like I was literally projected right back to my childhood. Now, of course, back then, the technology wasn't as advanced as it is now. So when you look at the Super Mario Brothers video games back then, they were very pixelated. They looked like little dots on the screens that was red, blue, and green and blue. And that's because that's how technology was back then compared to now. So looking at that was just, amazing to see how the world looked, how the characters look. The animation was very, very, very good on that aspect. The next thing that I did like was that they used some of the music. Like, they used some of the music from the game inside of it. They kind of remixed it a little bit to make it sound more modern, but when you hear it, you know exactly what that music is all about and where it is played and all of these different things. Another thing that I liked is how they made it in some parts of the movie seem like the game. Like when Mario has to do all these obstacles and hit the magic box, you know, the one at the gold box with the question mark on it, and something will pop out of it and you can use it to your advantage, sometimes to your disadvantage, in order to get through certain things as well. I also like that they incorporated certain games into the movie as well, such as, of course, Mario Kart, which was one of the best parts of the movie, was the Mario Kart part when they were on Rainbow Road. I feel like that's not a spoiler, because if you saw the trailers, they spoiled that like in the second, was it the first official trailer? I think that's when they kind of told you that they was going to do the Rainbow Road thing. And that got a lot of people hyped up, because Rainbow Road is one of the most popular levels and one of the hardest levels to play on in Mario Kart, but it's one of the most recognizable ones as well. So that whole Mario Kart sequence, I really did love that part. I also like that they also incorporated Smash Brothers in there as well, because of course, you know, that's another very popular Mario style game as well. I think Luigi's game was kind of mixed up in there, in a little bit in around that ballpark range. Like I said, if you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if you have if you have played these games before sometime in your childhood, which 9 times out of 10 you probably have. Another pro that I had for the movie was that it was a decent runtime. It wasn't too long, it wasn't too short, it was just right, especially when you're dealing with a movie that's for children, you know, like that's geared towards kids or a certain demographic. Because if you run it too long, if you do like a John Wick style for a movie like this, you're gonna run out of stuff to talk about. It's like, okay, if you want to do all of this, why don't you just wait until if you want to do a sequel and then go from there. The next thing that I liked about it, and it's probably one of the last things, is that it knew its audience as far as nostalgia purposes. It hit the adults, I would say, with the nostalgia, those who grew up with these games, and it also hit the children as a younger audience, maybe just getting introduced to this character, or these characters, I should say, and kind of immerse them with this reality. But a lot of the kids, because when at the theater I went to, it was a lot of kids in there. A lot of them knew who some of the characters were already, because maybe their parents introduced them to these games, or they just found a way to play them because of that Nintendo Switch. Kind of helped out a lot as well. But now that I've gotten through what I like, I'm going to get to the things that I did not like. And it was 3 things. At first it was 2, but a third one just popped up in my head. The first one was, and this is I don't know if this is a nitpick or not, but and this one is the third one that just popped up to me, but I'm mentioning it first because it's like the least on my totem pole of things that I didn't like. The lack of Yoshi. Now, Yoshi makes an appearance in this movie, and it's actually shown in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. Yoshi, or the Yoshis, because there's so many of them, makes an appearance in this movie, but it's very, very brief. Like literally, Yoshi's probably on screen for about 5 seconds. It would have been dope if they would have had Yoshi somewhere in there, unless they plan on making a sequel to this movie and then they can incorporate Yoshi in there, because as you know, Yoshi is basically Mario's pet. So it would have been dope if they would have had Yoshi in there a little bit longer, because that's another fan favorite type of character as well, especially to see what they could have did with this particular character in this movie. So that's like the small one I have. Now on to the 2 main ones I have, and it actually deals with 2 characters. The first one has to be Bowser. Now, granted, the pro to Bowser is that Jack Black did an excellent job of voicing this character of Bowser. When I first heard him do the voice of Bowser in the trailer, when they first did the teaser trailer, I was like, who is this actor doing this voice? And to find out it was Jack Black completely blew myself and everybody away, because we were not expecting Jack Black to make his voice sound like that. We all know what Jack Black sounds like, and for him to do that was kind of, wow, but it's interesting that he was able to make his voice do that, especially since Bowser is a very menacing character. So his voice has to be very menacing as well. However, in this movie, and I don't know if the games did this or not, but in this movie, they made Bowser be the biggest simp for Peach. It was unbelievable what they had him do in some of the parts of this movie. And I'm like, Bowser is supposed to be this menacing, domineering, scary character. Why is he literally about to probably risk it all for Princess Peach? That kind of threw me off for a little bit, and I'm sure a lot of adults that was probably in there was like, oh my god, I can't believe they actually did this to Bowser. And I really didn't like that they did that to his character, especially since Bowser is one of the, if not the top villain in the Mario world. So I didn't really, appreciate that they made Bowser do that. And they could have scaled it down some. It was good for comedic effect, but I felt like they overdid it. If you see the movie, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And my last gripe, and it's probably the biggest gripe, and I'm sure a lot of people who have seen this movie or who will see this movie are probably going to have the same issue as I did. And that is them making Princess Peach OP and basically a Mary Sue. I hate that they did that. And the thing is, we all know that Princess Peach, or just say Peach, character has always been a damsel in distress. Mario was always coming in to save her from any type of threat that Bowser pretty much had laid at his disposal, laid at her disposal. And granted, I'm glad they didn't do the whole damsel in distress thing with her in this movie. But it would have been dope if they wanted to follow the storyline a little bit more accurately that they could. But in this movie, they had her doing flips. She was running and hopping and jumping everywhere, throwing spears, shooting things out of her hands when she consumed the mushroom, and all types of things like that, even while in her dress. At first, I thought people was going to overdo it when they saw the trailer of her because, I thought people was going to be like, oh, they're going this direction of making Peach this and that because she got pants on now. She only has pants on one time because she has a jumpsuit on when she's on her bike, which is part of the Mario Kart sequence. Sorry for having to pause the review. My car alarm remote was going crazy, so I had to take it out of the room. But anyway, back to Peach. They literally did, in a way, make her a OP Mary Sue type in this movie to the point where you almost questioned in some of the scenes, was Mario even needed there? Because it's like she could have saved herself a lot of the times. I mean, it was even parts when she's doing all these acrobatics and literally in one part almost damn near going toe to toe with Bowser. Like, if you see the movie, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm just sitting there like, they actually went there with that. I could not believe they actually did that with Peach's character. Now, before anyone gets mad and upset because it's like making it seem like, oh, I'm so anti-female character and everything like that. No. But I wanted to at least be somewhat realistic, even though it's an animated film. Like, let's be real here. You actually expect all of us to believe that this tiny petite woman is going toe to toe with this big giant turtle looking being while wearing a gown. If Mario has to struggle with him, why is she, able to just like I said, if you watch the movie, you'll see exactly what I mean. Now, some of the kids, they might enjoy it, or as a matter of fact, I'll take it back. I was on a road with some kids who looked like they probably was in their preteens, and even they were picking up on that. These are preteens, so we're talking about kids that's right under the age of 13 that were even picking up on that. So if they could pick that up, then any adult watching that definitely could pick that up. But those were my 3 issues that I had with the movie. Also, I like that they had, let me go back to the pros. I like the array of characters that they did have in there as well. They had Donkey Kong in there. They had Toad in there. I already mentioned Bowser's. They had the Koopas, the Goombas. They also had this little star-looking character. Now, that little star character was kind of funny because it's like they had this cute, innocent-sounding voice, but they was always talking about some dreadful, dark, negative stuff. Like, when you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. That character was actually kind of funny. Then they also had the penguins in there. Like, they had these other characters. You even saw little other things from the games in there. So I like, the little, I guess you could say, Easter eggs that they threw in and out of the movie. But as far as the issues, those are my 3. The lack of Yoshi, making Bowser a simp, and pretty much Mary suing and OPing the hell out of Peach. But I think the movie, box office wise, is probably definitely going to do well because they released it in the middle of the week. It's spring break, is ahead of Good Friday and Easter Sunday. They're projecting that this could possibly be the first $1 billion movie of the year, which if it is, I wouldn't be surprised. But that's pretty much my review for the Super Mario Brothers. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 7 out of 10 because those 3 things kind of took my score down for me, especially those last 2 with Bowser and Peach. But y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. And also tell me too, what Super Mario game did you play growing up? Or what is your favorite Super Mario character or characters if you have more than one? And is this a movie that you would check out or take your kids to go and see? Yes, no, maybe, possibly, who knows? Tell me what you think down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.